Have you ever wondered how podcasters make money? Well, you're not alone. In our world today, podcasts have become a staple in our daily lives. They provide us with information, entertainment, and a sense of community. But what's even more exciting is that these audio masterpieces can also be a source of income. Podcasts, with their growing popularity, have opened up a new avenue for creators to earn. It's not just about passion anymore, it's about turning that passion into a viable business. And that's precisely what we're here to discuss. In this video, we're going to delve into the world of podcast monetization. We'll take you through a step-by-step guide on how you can earn from your podcast. We'll talk about the different ways podcasters generate revenue, from advertising and sponsorships to listener donations and selling products or services. Stay tuned if you're curious to know how to turn your passion for podcasting into a profitable business. Before diving into the methods, it's important to understand what podcast monetization truly means. Podcast monetization at its core is the process of transforming your podcast's audience into a source of income. It's about leveraging the relationship you've built with your listeners and turning it into a revenue stream. Think of it as a bridge, a connection between your creative efforts and the financial reward that can follow. Now you might be wondering, how is that even possible? How can an audience, an intangible entity, be converted into tangible revenue? It sounds like an abstract concept, doesn't it? But in the realm of podcasting, it's a reality that many creators are living and benefiting from every day. Here's how it works. You create content that resonates with a certain group of people. These people, your listeners, find value in what you produce. They tune in regularly, they engage with your content, and they become a part of your podcast's community. They're not just passive consumers, they're active participants in your creative journey. This is your audience. And this audience holds potential. Potential for engagement, potential for loyalty, and yes, potential for monetization. Because when people find value in something, they're often willing to support it. They're willing to invest their time, their attention, and sometimes, their money. The key to podcast monetization lies in recognizing this potential and knowing how to tap into it. It's about understanding your audience, knowing what they value, and providing them with opportunities to support your work. It's about creating a win-win situation where your listeners get more of the content they love, and you get the resources you need to continue creating it. Remember, podcast monetization isn't a one-size-fits-all process. It's a journey that's unique to each creator, each audience, and each podcast. It requires patience, creativity, and a deep understanding of your listeners. It's not just about making money, it's about sustaining your podcast, fueling your passion, and rewarding your hard work. Now that you understand what podcast monetization is, it's time to explore the various ways to achieve it. The most common way podcasters make money is through advertising and sponsorships. Now let's delve into the intricacies of this monetization method. In the vibrant world of podcasting, advertising and sponsorships serve as a robust revenue stream. It's akin to a symbiotic relationship where podcasters and brands join forces to create a win-win situation. But how does it work? Well, it's quite straightforward. Podcasters partner with brands to promote their products or services to their audience. In turn, they receive payment for these promotional activities. Think of your podcast as a bridge connecting brands to potential customers, your listeners. These brands are willing to pay a premium to cross that bridge and reach their target audience. You, as the podcaster, hold the power to grant them access. There are two primary types of podcast advertising: host read ads and produced ads. Host read ads are where you, the host, talk about the product or service during your podcast. This type of ad feels more personal and authentic to listeners. On the other hand, produced ads are pre-recorded commercials that are inserted into your podcast. They might not feel as personal, but they can save you time and ensure a consistent message. Sponsorships, while similar to advertising, usually involve a deeper relationship with the brand. Sponsors might support a series of episodes or an entire season, and their support is often acknowledged at the beginning or end of each episode. Now you might be wondering, how do I find these advertisers and sponsors? Well, there are several ways. You can join podcast advertising networks that connect podcasters with advertisers. Alternatively, you can reach out to brands directly, particularly those that align with your podcast's theme and audience. Ultimately, the key to successful advertising and sponsorships lies in partnering with brands that resonate with your podcast's target audience. This ensures that the ads are relevant and valuable to your listeners, enhancing their experience rather than detracting from it. Remember, the key to successful sponsorship is partnering with brands that align with your podcast's target audience. So choose wisely and keep your audience's interest at the heart of your decisions. Another way to monetize your podcast is through listener donations and crowdfunding. Essentially, this method relies on the generosity and support of your audience. It's a direct way of asking your listeners to contribute financially to your podcast, allowing you to continue creating content that they enjoy. First, let's talk about listener donations. This is as straightforward as it sounds. You simply ask your listeners to donate money to your podcast. This can be done through a one-time donation or recurring donations. You can set up a donation button on your website or use platforms like PayPal to facilitate the transaction. It's a simple and direct way to get financial support from your audience. Now, on to crowdfunding. Crowdfunding is a popular method of raising funds for a variety of projects, and podcasts are no exception. There are several platforms that facilitate crowdfunding for podcasts. Patreon and Kickstarter are two of the most well-known. Patreon allows creators to set up a subscription service where listeners can pledge a certain amount of money per month or per episode. In return, creators often offer rewards or exclusive content to their patrons. This gives listeners a sense of ownership and involvement in the podcast, and also provides a steady stream of income for creators. Kickstarter, on the other hand, is typically used for one-time projects. It's a platform where you set a fundraising goal and a deadline, and people can pledge money to help you reach that goal. If the goal is met by the deadline, you receive the funds. If not, no money is exchanged. This can be a great way to raise funds for a special project or episode. Listener donations and crowdfunding can be a great way to earn money, especially if you have a dedicated and engaged audience. It's about more than just the money, though. It's about building a community around your podcast and giving your listeners a way to be part of the journey. It's a win-win for everyone involved. Selling products or services related to your podcast is another effective way to monetize. Now you might be wondering, what exactly does this mean? Well, let's dive into it. Imagine you're hosting a podcast about gardening. You've gathered a significant following of green-thumbed enthusiasts who tune in every week to hear your expert advice. You're not just a voice in their earphones, you're a trusted authority in your field. This trust can be leveraged to sell products or services. Consider launching a line of gardening tools or organic fertilizers branded with your podcast's name. Or perhaps you've got a knack for explaining complex gardening techniques in an understandable way. Why not put together an online course or a detailed ebook? The key is to offer something that complements your podcast and provides additional value to your listeners. You see, when you sell a product or a service, you're not just generating revenue, you're strengthening the bond with your audience by giving them something tangible that extends the podcast experience. It's a win-win situation. Your listeners get more of the content they love, and you gain a steady stream of income. However, it's not as simple as just slapping a price tag on a product. You need to carefully plan your offering. Research your audience's needs and preferences. Make sure whatever you're selling is of high quality and aligns with your brand. And don't forget about marketing. Even the best product won't sell if your audience doesn't know it exists. Finally, execution is crucial. Whether you're shipping physical products or providing digital content, you need to ensure a smooth and satisfying customer experience. After all, these customers are your loyal listeners, and you don't want to let them down. Selling products or services can be a profitable way to monetize your podcast, but it requires careful planning and execution. So, take the time to plan, prepare, and most importantly, listen to your audience. They're your best guide to what products or services will be a hit. So, there you have it, a step-by-step guide on how to monetize your podcast. We've journeyed through the landscape of podcast monetization, exploring the various avenues you can take to earn some income from your passion. We've delved into the world of advertising and sponsorships, where you can partner with brands and businesses that align with your content and audience. Remember, it's about cultivating relationships and delivering value to both your sponsors and listeners. We've also explored listener donations and crowdfunding, a testament to the power of a dedicated audience. Your listeners are your biggest supporters, and their contributions can make a significant difference. And let's not forget about selling products or services. Whether it's merchandise, exclusive content, or even your own services, there are countless ways you can monetize your podcast beyond traditional advertising. Remember, podcast monetization takes time and effort, but with the right strategies, you can turn your podcast into a profitable business. Thanks for watching, and happy podcast.